All right, we're very excited to announce that we are going to make available what we're calling the online professional development, the hashtag 709 above the line. And what we've done is to design a way for you as certified staff members to kind of pick and choose the professional development that you think you need in terms of the 709 above the line, and then when you can find the time, being able to learn more about particular aspects that you're interested in. The nice thing about this is that you can get CPDUs for it. And so what I'm going to do is hopefully fairly quickly walk you through the process and what will happen in terms of when you decide to go to this Google Classroom and dive into one of these choices. I do want to mention that this is a work in progress. At the launch, there will be 3 professional development opportunities. We've got many more planned. It's just a matter of getting them ready to go and pushed out to the Google Classroom. So let's start with you decide I want to take one of these online professional developments. The first thing you need to do is, and we will push this out to everybody, you will need this join code, this UFN 506P. You will join that Google Classroom, and we're going to talk about the tabs. We're going to talk about, really, you're going to deal very little with the student tab. You're going to be looking primarily at the stream tab and the about tab. Let's start with the About tab. It's important for a couple of reasons. One is this is where you're going to get your CPDU forms. When you're done, this is where you're going to be able to make suggestions for things that you would like to see us do. But I want to point out this 709 above the line. This is a paper that you should have seen before. It's something that has starting to be talked about. And I want you to notice the only thing that I have added is I've made each of these 7 areas represented by 2 letters. Obviously, student engagement, SE, collaboration, CO, etc. This is important to understand because as we add more courses, if you look at it and say, boy, I'm really, the meaningful outcomes or the problem solving, I'd like to do more with that, you're going to want to look for opportunities that are labeled with PS, or you're going to want to look for the CO. Okay? So that About tab we'll come back to it in terms of the CPDUs as well. And if you've used Google Classroom as a teacher, I think this serves a couple of purposes. One, you're going to probably be used to this, and going through this probably will be a fairly easy task. Also, it gives you that perspective of being the student, and I've tried to make this so that it is as streamlined as possible, but there's also a little bit of that you kind of have to understand the flow of things as to how this classroom will work. So if you look at the stream and you're familiar with Google Classroom, the stream works like if you're a Facebook person, it works the newest post goes first. You can do some rearranging of it, but it's generally a feed kind of mentality. It's the newest one is first. But Google Classroom has allowed now the use of topics. And so in this case, you are really going to use the stream itself very little, okay? What you will see are the topics, and here's that CO. This is one that deals with collaboration. Here is innovation. Here is meaningful outcomes, okay? And so if you look down, like I said, there's only 3 right now, but if you look down and you say, okay, well, I'm interested in this collaboration using docs, slides, and sheets. Rather than go through the stream and try to find that, you're going to click on the topics, and it's going to bring up the 3 tiers, and we'll talk about those tiers in just a second. It's going to bring up the 3 tiers that relate to this professional development opportunity, this using docs, slides, and sheets. Okay, so let's talk about the tiers. In theory, here's what will happen. Tier 1 is, it's more than just a basic understanding of the app or concept or whatever it is that might be covered. There might be a little background, but there's going to be an expectation, for instance, in this one, that you have some experience, some background in docs, slides, and sheets. What Tier 1 will do is really make you familiar, get you thinking about how to use, in this case, docs, slides, and sheets, how to use it for an above-the-line purpose. Okay? Each tier is one CPDU. Okay, it's 1 hour of professional development. Okay, so if you do tier 1, and I'll click on tier 1 here. So this would be, quote, the assignment. These are all done through assignments, and again, we'll kind of talk through that in a little bit as well. And you'll notice here there are a couple of links that allow you to get some background information. You know, okay, I really don't understand docs, slides, and sheets. These two are places you can go to get that kind of background knowledge. But this Google slide is where you go to kind of really jump into the course itself. And then what you will have are some questions that get you thinking about, in this case, collaboration. This is kind of the evidence that's needed for the professional development. It really does get you thinking about how to use these, in this case, docs, slides, and sheets above the line. So if we go back here, that's tier 1. What tier 2 will generally be is you designing some kind of lesson around the concepts that were talked about in tier 1. So you design the lesson plan and you get another professional development credit. Tier 3 is going to be one in general where you share it. So you make this lesson plan, you share it at a faculty meeting, you have some student work that you submit, and you say, okay, I taught the lesson plan, and now here's what my students did, or here's what my students thought. You invite the principal in, you invite your colleagues in, I mean, that's the idea of tier 3. And so in the end, each of these topics is a course, if you will, that is divided into 3 tiers, each tier being 1 hour of professional development. So if you choose to do using docs, slides, and sheets from tier 1 through tier 3, you will get 3 professional development hours. That is generally how this will work. Now, that's not to say that everything we do and offer will always have 3 tiers, but at least at the start, that's the philosophy that we're going into this with. Honestly, I think this tier 3 becomes really important because it's the sharing. It's how other people find out about things that are being done in the classroom and effective things that are being done in the classroom. So if you say, well, the innovation, I wonder what this Ken Robinson thing is. And so here you've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and if you click on the assignment, it will actually tell you here's what you need to do. And in this case, it's a couple of YouTube videos that you would watch and then respond and present some ideas based upon what Ken Robinson talks about in terms of innovation. Okay, so that's kind of the background to it. The next part of this is going to be kind of the process and what you will do in each of these tiers and how you'll show that you have completed those 3 tiers. All right, so now let's look at the kind of the nitty-gritty of it. So I'm signed in as a test student, someone who has the availability of this online professional development course. I have put in the code that was at the beginning. So now I want to go in and I want to see this. I want to decide what I want to do here. So in this case, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm interested in this using Seesaw. Okay. And if I look at it and say, well, I can't remember what that MO is, I can go here, I can go to About, I can scroll down in the About section to Online PD above the line, and I can look here and say, oh, that's right, MO was Meaningful Outcome. Okay, so I go back to Classroom and back to Stream, and I say, yeah, that's the one I want to do. So I select using Seesaw, and I want to start at Tier 1, okay? I am going to select Open. And then here's where, if you're a teacher using Classroom, you're going to be more familiar with this. What you will see here is this Google Doc is something that I have created, and now you will notice it says MO using Seesaw Tier 1 dash your name. In this case, my name is Test Student. If I open this up, I now get a document where there are some directions and, in this case, some choices. And in this one, this online PD choice assumes that you have basic knowledge of Seesaw. You can find introductory tutorials. So if you say, well, I'm 7 through 12, I don't really know anything about Seesaw, and you select this 7 to 12 and you go here, it's going to open up in another browser, kind of some background to Seesaw. Okay. If I go back to this and I say, no, I know Seesaw, I've got some teachers down the hallway that use it. In this case, it's you pick the one of these 5 that you think are going to fit best. And you will notice that, like in this case, it doesn't match. This says K to 4, but then here I put good for EC to 6. In this case, that's truly, there are enough ideas within that K to 4 that it's okay to use it EC to 6. You're going to watch whichever one of those, not all of them, you're going to watch whichever one of those. Now, obviously, if you want to choose more than one, by all means do so. But then what you will do is to respond to these questions as after you've watched it or as you're watching it. And the idea here is these questions, it's, like when you have students do things in your class, we're trying to get a feel for what you know and have an expertise in, to be quite honest with you, so that if we have other teachers who are wanting to use it, we can think, okay, so-and-so did this and they had some really good ideas. We might, see if you can help that person and so forth. So you're going to go through, you're going to complete the watching of this, you're going to complete these questions. When you are done with that, and so I'll use some, just put some test things in there. When you are done with this and you are ready to submit it, and I'll show you on the iPad how to do it as well. I'm assuming most teachers will be using a PC or a Mac. This turn in. That's where you're going to say, I'm done, I'm ready to turn this in. And it says, are you sure this is just exactly what your students go through? Are you sure you want to turn in this attachment? And you're going to turn it in. Okay, so you've turned it in. The next step, and this is important for you, is to go back, go to the About section, and then you are going to go to the About section where it says CPDU Forms. You're going to select this, and you're going to say, okay, I was... here's my and title of professional development activity. Well, I did the using Seesaw. That was Tier 1. Here's the date that I did this. And then just like you do on the CPDU forms, you're going to go through and select those things. You're going to then do the, rate how you think this professional development, what it was, how well it was presented. And then you're going to submit. Now, I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to select my email, and so this is all what's going to happen. So when you complete Tier 1 or Tier 2 or Tier 3, you're going to go fill out this CPDU, and then if you'll notice in my inbox, I have gotten something that says Form Publisher Student Test Using Seesaw Tier 1. I'm going to select this, and within this email, you will notice that there is a PDF. If you open that PDF, here is your professional development proof. Now, we're doing something a little different here. Some people have been concerned about this signature. There's also accountability in terms of the district is concerned. And so what we're going to ask you to do is, after you've submitted it and you get this form, is to print this form out. This form will then get turned into the building principal, and the building principal will sign this form. Now, each principal may have a little bit different way of doing it. Some may just say, you know what, I'd rather sign it while you're there. Some will say, put it in my mailbox. The key here is that each principal is going to be a co-teacher in this classroom. So they're going to be able to look at what you've turned in, and not from a standpoint of like a judgment. It's more everybody knowing what everybody's doing. A principal being familiar with, oh, so-and-so did this seesaw, and now, you know, I kind of want to see what they're doing with that because another teacher wants to use seesaw. So the process here is pretty straightforward, but the key is, after you do a tier, so let's say that you decide seesaw is not for you. You probably wouldn't do Tier 2. If you decide, you know what, I really like seesaw, then you may choose to do Tier 2, and you may choose to kind of put together that lesson plan that focuses on the use of seesaw, and then that gets turned in the same way. You would go to the stream, and you would say, well, okay, I'm ready to use seesaw, and I'm ready to do Tier 2, and so now you do the same thing. You open this up, and you do what it asks you to do for Tier 2. When you are done, you're going to turn that in. You're going to go to the CPDU form. That the idea here is we make this as easy on you as possible. We give you some hopefully effective things to think about that then allows you to feel more comfortable with those particular things that we do professional development on. I want to remind you, and I cannot stress how important this is, on the About tab, this, if you have suggestions, if you say, oh, I've always wanted to know about this, one that is kind of interesting is called sketchnoting, and I'm in the process of putting that together. So if you have ideas, and then even better, on the form, it will say, are you willing to help put one of these together? Because you may have an expertise in something that I don't have the expertise. I've never used it. I can help you go through the process to get one of these courses uploaded, and it just is more stuff that people can pull from. So we really are hoping that in the end, this becomes something that helps you as a teacher, it encourages you as a teacher, and it encourages you to not only learn and step outside of your comfort zone, but also to help others step outside their comfort zone. If you want to do these together, if you will, by all means, sit down and work through them together. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to actually show you very, very quickly on an iPad what it will look like if you choose to do the assignments from an iPad. It's just a touch different. Okay, like I said, I want to show you very quickly here how, if you decide you're going to work on an iPad for this, things look a little different. What you're going to want to do is make sure that you have the Classroom app. You're going to want to make sure that you have the Docs app. And when you go to Classroom, you're going to see your list of classes. And in this case, you want the Online Professional Development. Here's where it really looks different. You want those topics, but you don't see them. Like there's stream, there's classmates, there's the About tab. You can go through and find, here's the suggestion, the first one, the suggestion in the CPDU form, and then the online, the above the line. But you don't see the topics. If you go to the top right-hand corner, right here, and you select that triangle, that's where it picks up your topics. And then you can say, well, I want to do this Ken Robinson one. And so now you get the 3 tiers. If you select that, you'll see the Google Doc right here that says innovation, which is what the IN stands for. You tap that one, and then it will bring up, there's the document that you're working with. And so then the same process, when you get done, I guess the only difference is, and this looks a little different, and I apologize, apparently my app was in the process of updating. This will open up in Google Docs usually when you have Google Docs, but when you are all done with it, so you've typed in it, you've watched what needs to get watched, you have to go back to the app like this. There is no turn in the top right corner like there is if you're on Google Docs on a Mac or a PC. What you have to do is go back to the app and then select the blue bar here that says turn in. And when you do turn in, again, it's giving you that, okay, are you sure you want to turn it in? You're going to say yes. It is submitted. You get this check mark so that you know it's submitted, and then you go through that process. You go back, you get to the About tab, you go down to the CPDU forms, you select that. It opens up the form. You go through the process of filling that out. You will get a PDF copy of the PD form. That will then go to the principal to be signed. So it really works the same way. It's just there's a few little differences. So again, good luck with this online PD. And again, by all means, make sure that you let us know if you have any ideas for future ones.